we're here in some of the craziest traffic I've ever seen, which should have been expected and was expected. But this is worse than expected, I think. They said that the line at the Tesla charger was 80 cars deep. It is 11:18 p.m. I'm still at the Ford dealership. Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm an EV owner and enthusiast. As this is my first video here, I wanted to give a quick intro before we get into the adventure. I've owned a Chevy Bolt for about 2.5 years, and throughout that time I've gotten very immersed in EVs, EV technology, and EV infrastructure. I've also gotten a decent amount of experience road tripping EVs, and have a few videos in the works, including driving this Bolt up Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and on a much larger scale, road tripping my dad's Rivian R1T across the country from the DC area to the San Francisco area and back. In this trip, we'll be in my 2017 Chevy Bolt Premier. I got this used with about 30,000 miles. It's up to about 68,000 miles now. I love this thing, but it's not exactly made for road tripping. For one, it's bad at fast charging. It's so bad at fast charging. Its peak charging speed is around 50 kilowatts, maybe 51 technically, but only if the temperature of the battery is within a few degrees of 75 degrees Fahrenheit and only under 50%. So it's a very small window. It's decidedly not 75 degrees Fahrenheit during this trip. And also, I have all weather rated tires on this Bolt, the Cross Climate 2s, which are great. They're snow rated. It's really nice for living here in Massachusetts, where I have to deal with snow and ice and rain, but they definitely hurt my efficiency versus the stock low rolling resistance tires. I get around 200 to 230 miles of range in the weather conditions that we had for this trip. It's not a bad range number for a 2017 EV, where a lot of EVs had 80, 100-mile ranges, but even a pretty decent range can't make up for bad fast charging, and trips in this thing are always an adventure. This specific trip is during the 2024 solar eclipse that crossed the United States. My sister, Izzy, flew in from out of town, and we drove from outside of Boston, Massachusetts, up into Vermont day of in an attempt to see totality. So, without further ado, the Eclipse adventure. So we have a little bit of an impromptu EV adventure. Today is the solar eclipse, and it's going to be a total solar eclipse in certain areas nearest to me in Vermont and Canada. But Vermont doesn't have great charging infrastructure. There's lots of chargers, but they're all older and they're all slower, and they all tend to have like 1 or 2 plugs at them, which is not great when a whole ton of outside people are going to be coming in from who knows where to come see an eclipse. Because the timing is kind of important and the locations are important, and it might be trafficy and a mess anyway, I decided to just rent a gas car for the trip and not worry about the EV charging. We're supposed to pick up the car at 8. And at about 6:30, I got a call from the rental car company that they had no rental cars. So, we are not in a rental car. As you can see by the fact that we're at an Electrify America right now, we are in my Bolt. We're trying to do it in the EV. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. I didn't get this recorded until the first charging stop because the camera wasn't working and things were being weird. So we've been here for... Oh, how long have we been here? We've been here for about an hour. We're just into New Hampshire. I didn't even have a full charge on the car because I wasn't expecting to be driving it today. So we started at about 50%, drove from Massachusetts up into New Hampshire. We've been here charging for 55 minutes. We're at about 60-something%. The screen needs to rotate over before it shows it to me. 70%. We just hit 70%. We're going to try to charge up to 80 and then we'll keep going. Our eventual goal was a rest stop in Canada where I was going to meet some friends. We might not quite make it there. So we have a secondary rest stop or rest area. That's our secondary goal. We're going to grab some food while we finish this last 10% because the mall just opened, and then we're going to make our way up into Vermont and our next charging stop. And hopefully we make it, and hopefully the charger doesn't have a line like 30 cars long and we don't get stuck in Vermont. But we will see. So we're at the Merrimack Premium Outlets in Merrimack, New Hampshire. It's a brand new Electrify America station. The nice new Electrify America chargers with the long cables. There's six stations, which is great. Not too crowded, which is great. The mall here just opened, so we're going to grab a smoothie at Smoothie Bus, and then we're going to hit the road. We got here at about 25%. It's been about an hour. We're just about to hit 80%. the Bolt does not charge fast, especially given it was 38 this morning. It's nice and warm now, but it was cold this morning, so we started charging at about 30 kilowatts and made our way up to maybe 45. But as soon as we're done grabbing food, we're gonna head out. We're gonna head up towards St. Johnsbury, where there's a whole collection of random like chargers at dealerships that have like 2 chargers, but it's our best option. So we might get stuck there for a while, but that's at least within the zone where we'll see a total solar eclipse. So if we get stuck there, well, we'll see the eclipse from St. Johnsbury, but hopefully we don't get stuck there and we can keep heading on from there. All right, we have an update. We're driving through New Hampshire. As you can see, there's a lot of traffic out there. Where are we? We're just outside Lincoln, I believe. We hit, right after we left the first charger, we hit a decent amount of traffic. Google Maps said it was going to take about 25 minutes. We were in that traffic for about an hour, I think. And then it picked up. We were cruising along at 70. At this point, we're not quite in the zone of where it'll be a total eclipse, though it is very pretty over here. There's big mountains and things. We're not quite in the zone where it will be a total eclipse, so we have to make it a bit farther. We've just hit more traffic. We're about 46 miles away from our next charger in St. Johnsbury. That being said, we just hit traffic that Google Maps says is going to take half an hour. So realistically, we're in this traffic for like an hour. With Google Maps' estimate, we're going to get to the charger at around 2:44. The eclipse starts eclipsing around then, and it gets to total around 3:28 or 9 or something like that, 3:29. So realistically, we're going to get to the charger, probably wait in the line, and then plug in, and we'll watch the eclipse from there. Luckily, this charger is within the zone, but we're not even going to make it close to Canada. We're not going to make it to our backup rest stop up the road more, probably. Most likely, we'll make it to our next charger, and we'll watch the eclipse from there. So we will have made it, just many hours less along, well, the same amount of hours along the road, but many miles less along the road than we expected. But that's what happens, apparently, when everyone comes to New Hampshire and Vermont all at once for an eclipse. I did expect traffic. I thought it would be worse on the way home, because everyone will leave right after the eclipse. Given that this many people are coming in, and people definitely came in all weekend, I think the traffic will probably be worse going home. So this is going to be a little bit less of an EV adventure and more of just a can we get out of Vermont adventure. Well, we're not even in Vermont yet. Can we get out of New Hampshire and Vermont adventure? Because the charging was, we stopped at Electrify America. It was slow because this car charges slowly, but it worked. Hopefully the random chargers in St. Johnsbury, which I keep forgetting the name of, work. But, like, we're going to have plenty of time to wait for them because that's kind of our final destination, it looks like. But if it's this bad getting there, it might take us many hours to get home. We'll update you again if we're stuck in this traffic for a lot longer, or hopefully when we get to the chargers. Here's the traffic. It's beautiful. There's mountains and things. Yeah, there's lots of cars here. There's lots of cars over there. There's cars behind us. There's some from far away. It's mostly Massachusetts plates, which I kind of expected. But there are some like North Carolinas, some Pennsylvanias. All right, so update. We're in traffic. Is this the same traffic we recorded the last update in? Yeah, okay.
There's still mountains.
Yeah, it's still pretty, but if you can't tell from the fact that I couldn't remember if this was the same traffic, we've been in this traffic for a while. We've been going about 3 to 8 miles an hour for a while. I don't know. I'll look at the timestamps of the videos and put an update, but it's been a while. We are not going to make it, definitely not going to make it to Canada, not going to make it to that rest stop. We're almost certainly not even going to make it to St. Johnsbury before the eclipse. I mean, it's technically starting now. It's 2:52. Totality happens at, 3:29. So the eclipse is technically starting now. We tried to stop at a gas station to pee, but their toilet was entirely clogged and they were not letting people in. So that's kind of the situation. People are jumping out of their cars to pee, and we're moving slow enough that they can get back to the car before it gets too far away. Theoretically, we're near the end of this traffic. I don't believe Google Maps, especially because it barely has signal, but theoretically. But our goal is kind of just to go as far down 93 as we can. What was that?
Dogs. Sorry.
Dogs. Oh, dogs. That's a fair interruption. Our goal is to go as far down 93 as we can. There's a couple rest stops that are definitely going to be super packed, but we're going to make it as far as we can and then get out somewhere safe and hopefully look. But like, we still have to make it to St. Johnsbury eventually because it's still the closest charger, and we do have to charge to make it back, unless we go 3 miles an hour the whole way. For now, we just drive 4 miles an hour through traffic, and eventually we get out. The sun's kind of back there. We can maybe, I mean, I can see it, but I have to drive, so we'll see if we actually get to look at it at all. But we're here in some of the craziest traffic I've ever seen, which should have been expected and was expected. But this is worse than expected, I think. Yeah. So I'm being quiet because there's a bunch of people looking at it. Well, you can't really tell, but it looks super dark. It's really weird. But there's like just a tiny little sliver. This isn't really gonna work, but it's pretty crazy. We didn't quite make it to where it'll be totality, I don't think, but we made it as far as we could. All right, so we made it kinda most of the way. So we were stuck in traffic going like 3 miles an hour for, was it like 2 hours?
It was a good couple hours.
We were legitimately going like 3 to 8 miles an hour for a couple hours. To the point that I had been looking at the ETA, so I was like, yeah, we're just in traffic, but we're cruising along. Well, not cruising along, but we're on our way. And then we looked and we're like, oh yeah, the Eclipse is starting now. So the traffic just got worse and worse and worse until we hit this merge where it went down to 1 lane. And at that same point, the Eclipse got eclipsy enough that everyone pulled off to the side of the road. And then the road widened, so suddenly we found ourselves on a 3-lane highway with absolutely no traffic. As the Eclipse was starting, it was like getting dark. Izzy hopped in the back seat and was looking out the window at the Eclipse, so we weren't recording. But we found ourselves going 70, which was the speed limit, so we're like, all right, we're just gonna book it as close to totality as we can. And when we hit a couple minutes before it, we found a good, safe, an exit with like a nice safe spot to pull off, and we pulled off. We got to, I think, 99.9% totality, and it wasn't enough to take our Eclipse glasses off, but it got down to this like teeny tiny pinprick, which you still couldn't look at with the glasses off, which was pretty wild. It got super dark, and frogs were singing, like it got really cold. It was pretty wild. It was cool. And now we get to keep driving towards St. Johnsbury, which I forget the name of every time I say it for some reason, because we still have to charge. So the road's nice and empty. Everyone's probably headed the other way. It's not too bad yet, but it will probably get bad. But yeah, we're headed to St. Johnsbury. We're gonna probably have to wait in line for a charger, but we'll charge as much as we can because I'd rather do one stop and charge while we have a charger than risk stopping in, I think, Lebanon would be our other option. And those chargers are they're Electrify America, and they're sometimes iffy, and I don't want to have to wait in line at like a Walmart in Lebanon. So once we get this charger, because we have no other choice, we have to stop at this charger. Once we get this charger, I'm not going to be a bad EV driver. I'm not going to charge to like 90, but I will go up to 80 just so that we can get as far as we can before stopping again. Normally in this car that wouldn't be optimal because it slows down a ton after 50%. But I think today, the farther we can go before we have to stop to charge again, the better the chance we don't have to wait in the line. So yeah, we'll go into St. Johnsbury. We'll probably have to wait for the charger at this dealership, but then we'll charge up. We'll finally get to use the restroom maybe, and then we'll head back and hopefully not get in as bad of traffic, but I suspect it won't be ideal, but we'll see.
Welcome to Vermont.
Well, we made it to Vermont. where we were trying to get to before. No, one fun thing is, according to a better route planner, we were supposed to arrive at St. Johnsbury with 5%. We're gonna get there with like 20-something%. Turns out, driving half the route at 3 miles an hour, you get some range that you wouldn't have otherwise had. Well, we made it into town, and then we got stuck in traffic getting through town for about an hour. Because everyone was trying to get out, but the way that they routed traffic just stopped everything. It was crazy, just gridlock in all directions. So we made it to this charger, and it's, you can probably see, we're at a Ford dealership. There are 2 charge points, about 60 kilowatts each. There are so many cars here that they have started a sign-up list. I am 14th on the list. There are a bunch of Rivians, there's a bunch of Bolts, there's multiple Teslas, because apparently the Tesla charger down the street is equally clogged with cars. There's some F-150 Lightnings. There are so many cars here, and again, we're 14th on the list and people are still appearing. Cell signal isn't really working so well because there's so many people around, it's not used to it, so the cell towers can't handle data. So we have 5G, but nothing will load. We can do phone calls, we just can't do any kind of data. There's a Wi-Fi here, and there's a password on PlugShare, but I can't get PlugShare to load. So I'm going to try to call someone who can look it up so that I can do a little bit of research, because, I don't know, maybe we can get to another charger somewhere. If each car here charges for like an hour, because they're slower chargers. Even with 2 chargers, we're 14 on the list, we'll be here for 7 hours, and I don't really want to be here for 7 hours. So, yeah, I don't really know. We're kind of stuck right now. But I'll do some research. Maybe more people will give up. I don't know. I don't know how many people even have the option to give up, because there's not that many chargers around here. We'll see. Just as an example of how many cars are here, we've got a Bolt there, there's a Rivian there, Volvo, another Bolt. We've got a Kia charging, a Rivian charging. A Rivian just left. There's a Kona over here. We've got 2 F-150s, an ID4, 2 other Bolts that are on the level 2 over here. There's my Bolt. I'm actually plugged into the level 1. There's just an outlet on the wall, and I plugged into it because it's at least better than nothing. So, yeah, these 2 here are on the level 2, so they're probably getting 7 kilowatts. I'm here. I literally just plugged right into the wall with my mobile charger, my portable charger. I'm getting less than a kilowatt, but it's better than nothing. This Lightning is waiting here. There's another Rivian over there at that pizza place that's also on the list. And I believe there's maybe another Rivian or 2 that have gone elsewhere while they're waiting. But yeah, overall, I mean, some of this parking lot is, you know, the cars that are actually at this dealership, but a good portion of the cars in this parking lot are all waiting. We're all kind of hanging out here. There's the sign-up list is there. We're gonna be here for a while. I did look up other options, and there's not really much we can get to. Not anything I trust, and the likelihood is that they'll be just as busy as this. There are some people with the Fords who have the adapters tried to go to the nearby Tesla charger first, before coming over here, and they said that the line at the Tesla charger was 80 cars deep. That's 80 cars deep. So I guess I'll count myself lucky that we're only 14th in line and not 80th in line. Turns out, when like the entire population of New England all comes to the least populated state in New England, it's a little bit chaos. The traffic is still going. It's a little bit less. It's at least moving now. This line is not moving fast, and I don't know if like gas stations are gonna run out of gas, but it's pretty wild out here. We're gonna be here a while. I'm gonna keep researching. I'm gonna keep trickle charging, but I think I'm probably just gonna be stuck here until we can get on the fast charger or one of these slow chargers. So we just walked around the building to see if they were open inside, to see if we could find a restroom, and we found there's another level 2 charger over on this side, and there's 4 more cars over here. We've got 3 Teslas and a Kia all hanging out waiting to charge on this side, on the level 2s. So, and there's another level 2 broken up the front of the building. So yeah, we're pretty much maxing out this building. We've got 2 cars fast charging very slowly. We've got 5 cars on level 2, and then 2 of us sitting on the really slow 120 volt plugs. Mine, if I charge all the way on the 120 volt plug, which I won't need a full charge on it, but if I did charge full on it, would take until 1 p.m. tomorrow. If the F-150 Lightning sitting next to me charges all the way on the level 1, it'll take him until Friday. To illustrate the size difference in the battery between my car and an F-150 Lightning.
4 p.m. Friday.
4 p.m. on Friday. And I would be out of here tomorrow. But that's on, like, the slowest possible charging. Let's hope that this dealership doesn't lose power. It's the only hope at least 18 of us have. Alright, gotta find somewhere to pee. Alright, we've now had 2 Teslas and a Polestar join in the fun. Oh, here comes another Tesla. I think people are finally giving up on the 80 deep Tesla charger and they're trying to come here. This one's not going to move any faster because there's only 2 chargers here and they're slower versus the, like, 8 at the Tesla charger. I'm glad I'm in that list already. That being said, as much as this is not ideal, like, the traffic is so bad that we wouldn't really be going anywhere anyway. And at least everyone here has been pretty nice so far. A bunch of people just hanging out at the table over here, chatting, talking about the list, talking about their adventures. Alright, here's another Tesla that just pulled up. We're getting reports from the Tesla charger that the line is now up to 150? Is that what they said?
151.
Sorry, 151? Ours seems to be holding, well, now that all the Teslas are bailing here, it might not be holding steady at 14, but it had been holding steady at 14. That being said, what I was trying to say before all the extra Teslas showed up is that, like, despite the fact that we're kind of stuck here, everyone is in relatively good spirits. Well, the Tesla people might not be because they've also been waiting a while. But, yeah, there's just a bunch of people hanging out at the bench over there, chatting. Like, we have the list. People are telling stories about things. The pizza place over there is really good. The weather is nice. I mean, it's just not really many clouds. It's good temperature. And we don't really have too much other option because of how many people are here. There's pretty much no hotels. Like, that's part of the reason we're not staying overnight on this trip, why we didn't, like, come into yesterday, is all the hotels were either completely sold out or going for thousands of dollars a night. So this is a little bit ridiculous, but I know there's going to be probably a thousand, like, conservative articles about, like, how the EV charging broke down during the Eclipse. But it's like, not only is this an area that rarely experiences even a tenth of this much traffic, but also it's just a very unusual event. I mean, it only happens every couple decades, and so the number of people who came to a place with not that many people is kind of crazy. And I mean, I keep looking over there because I'm watching the traffic go by, and it's still probably only going 15 miles an hour down a relatively small road. It's just been doing that for hours, and I'm sure the highways are worse. I believe my friends who went up to Canada are also stuck in traffic going home, so I expect that it won't just be charging stations. I think we'll probably have gas stations run out of gas, that kind of thing. At least we can't run out of electricity, I hope, here. We're just waiting in line still for now. I'm going to keep researching options. We're still very slowly level 1 charging. But yeah. Alright, well, welcome back to this random Ford dealership. Yes, we are still here. We got here around 4:30 probably. It's now 8:14, so we're coming up on 4 hours here. We're, I think, 10th in the list. It's not moving fast. Turns out when half the cars on the list are Bolts, of course, I can't say anything, I'm in one, but turns out when half the cars on the list are Bolts, it takes a little bit of time. And everyone has to get charged enough to make it to the next fast charger, so it's not like people can just charge like 15 minutes and move on to the next one. They've got to get most of the way out of Vermont or New Hampshire. Teslas have stopped showing up, so maybe the list has gone down there, but last I heard the list was at 150 long. There's a few Teslas at the end of our list. You know, I'm still hanging out. Everyone that I've met over there has been great. We've been chatting still about road trips and things. There's a guy who, you know, gets to go drive off-road as part of his job in his Rivian. It's like the perfect vehicle for it. There's one poor guy who is visiting from DC, flew in, and the rental car company gave him an EV. And, you know, it's great to be able to rent EVs, but man, getting assigned an EV when you're not expecting one, especially for something like this, really can put a bad taste in people's mouth. Now, he's being a good sport about it, but you know, he's never driven one before, and now here he is, stuck in Vermont, like 10th on the list. He's right below me. He's right above me, so like 9th or 8th on the list at this point. He has a flight at 7 a.m., and he's stuck here at this charger until whenever he can charge, and then he has to drive back to Boston. We've been helping him out, trying to get him a hotel close by that he can maybe stop at, and I think he's at least encouraged by the fact that all of the rest of us here seem to love our cars despite being stuck here. We've been telling him that this is an extremely unusual situation, but yeah, I've never experienced anything like this. It's wild. So many more cars will like pull in, kind of pull up to the charger, be like, can we be next? And we'll be like, you can put your name on the list, you're 18th. And then they'll either go, okay, and they'll park, or they'll drive off. I've moved over, I'm on one of the slow chargers now, so I'm charging at about, well, right now I'm turning on some heat while I'm plugged in, but I'm at about 7 kilowatts. It's not really going to do anything that useful, but, well, given that I've been here for 4 hours, and I'm still 10th on the list, it could be 4, 5, 6 hours before I get the fast charger, and by then I'll have more than 50% and I might be able to just leave. So at least I'm charging while waiting for the fast charger. If I'm going to be on a slow charger, I'd rather do it here at this slow charger than find some other random one somewhere. Like, there's a bunch of us here, it's well lit. Shout out to this dealership. They've got 2 ChargePoint DC fast chargers that are 125 kilowatts split, so you can get about 60 out of each when there's 2 people plugged in, and then there's 6 individual handles for level 2 charging, so it's a pretty great spot, and they've got it well set up. There's nice lighting here, they've got a nice bench for hanging out, so it's clear that this dealership sells EVs and is open to people charging here. So normally I'm not a huge fan of having to charge at dealerships, but this is at least a nice one to hang out at if you have to hang out at the dealership. We're still hanging out here at the chargers. I do gotta say though, the chargers here are at Twin State Ford, and I have to say, shout out to them. They left, not only did they give us the paper for our list, there's this nice bench here, chargers over here, I've already shown you all the other ones, but they also left a whole cooler out here full of drinks for us. They got nice lighting, so yeah, shout out to Twin State Ford for giving us some nice amenities and things, at least while we're stuck here. We're a couple more cars in. We've got a Volvo and one of the Rivians charging right now. I think there's a Lightning up next. It's definitely about an hour per car, so each car on that list is another hour that we're going to be here. Honestly, we might be here long enough that the level 2 gets us enough that we can keep going. We'll see. But so far it's actually been kind of fun. I mean, Izzy might not agree. She's standing right over there listening to an audiobook.
That's okay, I have 2 more audiobooks.
She has 2 more audiobooks, so so far I've kind of enjoyed it. It's been fun to kind of like meet and chat with people, talk about the Eclipse, talk about EVs. So that part has at least been nice. Everyone here has been really pleasant, despite the fact that we're all, maybe because of the fact that we're all stuck here together. And there's not really much more to say. We're just still sitting here. It's getting a little bit cold outside. There's a guy, actually, that's a wild one. There's a guy over here with a Mitsubishi i-Miev from like 2014. I think it has like an 11 kilowatt hour battery. It's one of those ones with the weird bug eyes at the front. It's a crazy car. He doesn't have enough power to run the heater, so he's bundled up. He's got his gloves on. He's way down the list here, but I don't think I've ever seen an i-Miev in person. It's getting a little bit cold. I'm gonna have to start running heaters, which isn't great when we're all waiting for the chargers. Luckily for the Bolt, the charger can go faster than the Bolt can charge, so that's not going to slow down our charging time to run the heater a bit. We'll run the heater before we leave so that we don't have to use as much power when we're driving to run the heat. We'll still have to use some, but that'll at least get it over the hump of like warming the car back up from being sitting here for a while. Oh, here comes another Tesla, maybe? Yeah, I'm gonna go talk to him and tell him the situation. Here's the i-Miev. I don't want to get his license plate in it, so I'm not going to show the full front, but it's a funky little car. It's kind of cool. I believe it has a 11 kilowatt hour battery. He says it charges on level 2 at a maximum of 3 kilowatts and does like 30 maximum on fast charging, which, you know, when it's this cold, that's really all my Bolt will do anyway. But yeah, it's a pretty wild looking car. Very interesting early EV from, I believe, 2014. The tires are really tiny. I'd say it's quite a bit, it's a bit smaller than my Bolt. It's a very interesting car. Very unique looking. Hello. It is 11:18 p.m. I'm still at the Ford dealership. We're next-ish in line. Kinda. There's the F-150 Lightning still on the charger. The ID4 is charging. ID4 is at 50%. The F-150 is a bit farther. That F-150 has such a big battery to be able to propel that thing that it is not charging fast when it's sitting here going like 40 kilowatts. That's okay. They're very nice, and they need to get home too. We are still here on the level 2. The Leaf is also on the level 2 with us. The Tesla that was here got as much as they needed and headed out. We've gotten up to 50%. We have 100 miles of range. But we need 80 to 85 to make it out of Vermont and New Hampshire and back into the chargers in Manchester. We're going to keep charging after the Ford finishes, then the poor guy who got the rental car EV stuck on him is going to charge, and then before me there's another Bolt, but I think they either left or used a different charger, so after that it's me. I'm on deck, and I'm going to just stay on the slow charger until then, so I'll keep charging up slowly. They're talking about how much red is still left on the map. There's still a ton of traffic. My friends who made it up to Canada, so we got here at 5:30. It took us an hour and a half to get here, and then we sat here. We've been here for 5.5 hours. 6.5 hours? 5.5 hours. They left Canada when we left where we were. They about 20 minutes ago were about 20 minutes from us. It took them the entire 4.5, 5 hours we were sitting here just to get to 93 to head south towards Boston. So we're not even that far behind them is the wild thing. We've been sitting here waiting to charge for 5 hours. 6 hours? A long time. And we're not even that far behind people who have been driving the whole time, because they went 50 miles in the span of 4 hours. It's wild. So yeah, I'm gonna sit here on the slow charger, get as much as we can here, and then when it's finally our spot over on the fast charger, we'll wait for as long as we need to. It'll go a little bit faster up to 80, probably 82%, so we can get back to that charger we started at. We'll get back to the mall. It'll be closed again, so we'll get to see that mall closed in the morning and closed in the evening, but it'll get us home. Well, exciting news. We are on the charger. Most of our friends are gone. We've still got the Hyundai next to us, the guy who got the rental. The Leaf is charging on level 2, and the iMiev is here waiting. He was the last one here besides a couple who are on page 3 of the list who have left and might not return, it seems. We actually got up to 50% just over 50% on the level 2. So we're not going super fast because it's cold now. The car's cold and we're at a higher percentage, but we're now charging at 28 kilowatts, which is better than 7. We got to get to 80% and then we'll head out. It shouldn't be too long, actually, now that we're finally charging after many hours. All right, we're on the road. We charged for about 40 minutes maybe. It's now 12:40. Maybe we charged for about 50 minutes. We left with exactly 84%. I really wanted to get a couple percent higher, but I felt bad because the guy behind us had been waiting for a while. So we charged right up to 84%, which should definitely get us to Mall of New Hampshire. But I'm hoping we can stretch it to back to the Merrimack Outlet Mall. It's just slightly farther and it's just slightly newer and nicer, Electrify Americas. But we're on the road. This road probably would have just been bumper to bumper for hours earlier, so at least we get to drive at the speed limit. We will probably hit traffic. We're on 91 because apparently 93 just is not passable currently.
It's
so
closed.
It's literally closed. There's definitely still some chaos going on, even though it's past midnight now. As we were leaving, one last car pulled in, a Tesla pulled up. They had been working their way to this charger the whole time. They said the whole time they were dealing with charging stuff, they had friends who were sitting on an on-ramp the entire time for hours, just not moving. So, I mean, I guess at least we got to hang out outside and move around and have somewhere to pee and chat with cool people instead of just sitting in traffic. So, it could have been worse, I think. It wasn't ideal, that's absolutely for sure. This video wouldn't really be a video if everything had gone to plan, though. But overall, it was definitely an experience. We met some interesting people, got to chat with people. It was a lot better than sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic for hours. So we should make it home, but we'll update at the next charger. We do, unfortunately, still have one charging stop left on this journey, but right now we're cruising along at the speed limit, which is all I can ask for. It's been so long since we've driven a speed limit. So, we officially made it. We actually didn't stop at the Mall of New Hampshire. We decided to keep going. We made it all the way to the Merrimack Outlet Mall. We got here with 3%. We got here with 3%. It said, I knew we could make it. This was saying 15 miles of range when we had about 5 miles of driving to go. Of course, it switches annoyingly to just flashing low when you get below, I think, 10%, which is quite annoying. Over there it says 41 kilowatts. Over here it says 35. We're running the heat. We weren't running the heat so we could get a little bit farther, so now we're heating it up fast, but then we're actually getting decent speeds because we've been driving for like 2.5 hours straight. So the battery's a bit warm, so that's good. It means we'll charge faster. We just got to charge up enough here to get back home. Well, we officially made it. Sorry for the creepy light I'm lit up by the front of my car. It's probably going to get dark in a second, but we made it. We're home. We got here with 20%. Charger's available at the apartment, so we're just going to plug in and go to sleep because it is 4:45 in the morning, but we made it home. That was one of the most wild EV trips that I've ever done, and I've driven a Rivian across the country. As you can probably tell, I was not exactly up to the task of filming by the end of that. I'd been up for more than 22 hours at that point, so now that I've slept a little bit, let me fill you in on some of the final stats that I forgot to mention. Remember my friends who were stuck in traffic in a gas car headed home from Canada? Well, they didn't run out of gas, but I did end up beating them home by more than 3 hours. It took them most of the 7 hours we were waiting at the charger to drive about 90 miles, a drive that should have been 2 hours. Once they reached 93, about 20 miles from where we were charging in St. Johnsbury, they barely moved until somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., at which point Izzy and I had made it to our final charging stop in Manchester. The wild thing is, if we had gotten the rental gas car like I had attempted to do, we may have made it further into Vermont, but there's a big chance we would have been stuck in traffic, and it would have taken us even longer to get home, and we wouldn't have had all the nice amenities of the dealership. All in all, it took us somewhere around 9 hours to drive from outside Boston to the charger in St. Johnsbury, not including the time we stopped to watch the eclipse. A drive that, according to Google Maps, should be a 3-hour drive without traffic or charging stops. We then spent about 7 hours at Twin State Ford between waiting and charging. Again though, shout out Twin State Ford, that was a pretty nice place to hang out if we had to hang out somewhere for 7 hours. Our drive home ended up being the fastest segment by far. Thanks to Izzy, who was looking up all the traffic feeds, we routed ourselves around the traffic on the way home that my friends were stuck in, and it took us just under 4 hours, including charging, to make it from St. Johnsbury to the charger, charge, and then back home. 4 hours. As for the Tesla owners, the final number we heard from the superchargers was that the line was 180 cars long. They were handing out paper slips to people as they arrived so that people could keep track of where they were in order. Overall, I knew this would be an adventure going in, and it certainly did not disappoint. The day was long, it certainly didn't go as I planned, but it was absolutely a fun time. I met lots of really cool EV owners, I have a wild story to tell, and I don't really regret any parts of this trip, even if it was an exhausting day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for part 1 of my family's Rivian R1T road trip. I'm still working on editing it. I have over a terabyte of footage, so it's going to take me a bit. For a sneak preview, go check out this episode of the Rivian Stories podcast, where my dad and I chat with Jimmy and Skylar about the trip. Thanks for watching.